Hey 49ers fans, Jack Hammer here with an important update on Brock Purdy. The 49ers quarterback had another interview yesterday. You may recall, if you follow the channel, that Purdy spoke with a radio station out in Arizona a couple of weeks ago, detailing his rehab, the surgery, the things that he's doing to improve to get ready for year 2 in the NFL. Well, yesterday he had a conversation with a reporter from ESPN and a couple of reporters from The Athletic. In that interview, he talked about an update with his recovery. He talked about what he's doing to get better, who he's talked to, and those types of things. So here we go. One of the biggest pieces of news in terms of Brock Purdy's recovery, and it's a positive, is that he no longer has the big brace on his right arm. You remember the big robotic-looking brace made him look like, something out of a Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. But that big brace is no longer there. That is a big positive. He was already able to do some working out in terms of footwork drills and keeping himself in shape. But that brace now being off, and that's a positive step for him. It's definitely a step in the right direction. So Brock Purdy no longer having the big brace on his right elbow. Big positive there. He's been working out, doing footwork drills, doing those types of things. Still, the time frame for Purdy's recovery in terms of throwing is around the 12-week mark. That's going to be June 2nd. That's when the doctor who did the procedure, Dr. Keith Meister, will go back in. He'll take a look at the recovery, how that elbow looks, and at that point, Brock Purdy will either be able to start his throwing training process, or it might be delayed a little bit. So that's going to be a big date. All expectations are that at that point, that things should be cleared though, and if they are, he'll be throwing. So, positive sign for Brock Purdy there is that the elbow brace is off. We will definitely have more information around June 2nd. That's going to be during OTAs for the 49ers. So we'll be able to be speaking with Kyle Shanahan around that point as well. So, positive news for Brock Purdy on the recovery front. Other important news that Purdy shared is that he's been speaking with baseball players and football players who have undergone the UCL procedure, in particular baseball players. The UCL injuries aren't that common in football players. It's more of a baseball thing. And so he's spoken with some of those baseball players. He talked about how it's different when you have a baseball player versus a football player. Their recovery process is completely different because a baseball player, when they throw the ball, it's a much more violent movement on that elbow than it is throwing a football. And so that's why when we look at the recovery timelines that are being utilized are more towards the baseball side. So that's when they say 6 months to 8 months to 9 months to a year, those types of things. That's more based off of something that would be a baseball player, not a football player. Now, the other thing that Purdy mentioned is that he has also spoken with former 49ers quarterback Nick Mullins. Now, this is an interesting discussion, and this is one that I think also shows a positive. Nick Mullins shared some of the things that he did with Purdy when he was making his comeback. And for the 49ers, and if you're a believer in Brock Purdy, he could be back as early as 5 months post-surgery. The reason I say that is that's how long it took Nick Mullins. You might remember, Mullins injured the UCL in his throwing arm in late December of the 2020 season against the Dallas Cowboys. He was back, cleared for action, 5 months post-surgery. Now, if that same time frame holds for Brock Purdy, post-surgery to 5 months out for Purdy would be a return to action July 28th. That's the beginning of training camp right around there for the 49ers. And both Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch talked about the possibility of having Purdy back in training camp. And I think that's where that belief comes from. They also mentioned that it could be longer. No two people necessarily are going to come back at the same rate and have the same recovery, but there is a belief that he could be back in time for training camp. And I think if he's able to match the time frame of Mullins, like I said, that would be right around July 28th. I look at it more as looking at a return of around August 10th, August 14th. That's right around the first preseason game. I think that's a little more realistic. It also gives him about a month of full work with the team to get himself back in shape and ready to go. He also talked in both interviews that he's had now about watching film to help himself improve. And this is one of those discussions that has been going around in different corners of the 49ers universe, that Purdy maximized his potential during the 2022 season, that there's not a lot of room for improvement. That's something that I disagree with. I think that there's room for Purdy to improve. Purdy thinks that there's room to improve as well. And I think there's other folks that do think that he can improve, that he wasn't perfect last year. Although his record was nearly perfect, his play wasn't. And if he can get better with his footwork, if he can get better with his timing, these are both things that Purdy mentioned, by the way, he could take a step up in performance. You know, there were times last year where you saw him scramble when he didn't need to scramble, or you see him break out of the pocket when he didn't have to. Throws were there to be made. One example of that would be out in Las Vegas when, if you might recall, Purdy dropped back, gets out of the pocket, scrapes to his left, throws a touchdown pass to George Kittle. Well, if he had just hit his back foot and thrown the ball on time to Juwan Jennings in the right flat, who was open, it's a touchdown. He doesn't have the scramble. So although that was a positive play, there's other examples of that throughout the film with Purdy. There's other examples where he escapes and breaks out too soon, where it's an incomplete throw. Those are all ways that he can improve. Sometimes it's just a matter of getting the ball out on time, so you can maybe let your receiver do a little bit better after the catch, which is a big part of the 49ers offense as well. So good news there for Purdy. His recovery is coming along well. His time frame to return would seem to indicate that he's going to be back around week 1, and that he'll be ready to go week 1. He's going to be back in training camp and be ready to go in week 1. And the other part there is that there is areas that he can improve. He sees the areas that he can improve, and he's working on those already. He's been watching film. He's been working on footwork drills and those types of things. So all arrows are pointing up for Brock Purdy here. And I don't put money down on things, but if I was a betting man, I would say that Brock Purdy will be the 49ers starting quarterback week 1 when they hit the field. There you have it. Hope you enjoyed. If you guys can do me a favor before you leave, hit the like button and also hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. And when you do, hit the little bell notification so you don't miss any of the content that goes up here. So thank you all very much for tuning in to Inside the 49ers with Jack Hammer. Appreciate you all. Have a great day, and we'll be talking with you soon. Take care, everyone.